This is just a short little presentation on addressing Corey Goode associated with David Wilcox. Now he's being associated with Stephen Greer. Okay, so, for me, this is going to go all the way back to childhood. I figure most everybody knows what a Trojan horse is, right? Remember the old story of the Trojan horse? Right? Broke into your computer, releases itself. Right? That would be no different than a Trojan horse that comes into a planet ship and releases itself. Now you have a parasitic infestation in the womb of a goddess. Okay, no different than a parasitic infestation in your gut, in your womb, in your gut. That's right. Okay, so now you got to get rid of the parasites the same way the planet's got to get rid of the parasites, right? So these are space invaders, right? Feeding on your energy, right? So they play what's known as a game or war of deception. And I was very aware of this when I was a child because I realized, man, I'm surrounded by robots, mimickers, order followers. Man. So you already know their future because you're not experiencing a love vibration, any of these things. Now, granted, there's a qualifier in that because I realize because you can experience the amount of resistance that they have in their auric energy field where they still have a soul. And naturally, if you look them directly into the eyes, soul to soul, eyes to eyes, spirit to spirit, the breath of living spirit. So I call that reading the field or reading the DNA or reading the operator. Okay, which basically gets down to, in a planet ship, the core drive. Warp drives, right? The core driver, the energy that is driving the ship, the core frequency, the core vibration of the operator. Okay. So when you're a single pole, your core vibration is an eternal love vibration. That's an enormous amount of fire, so you better have a way to cool that down. Why do you think so much of this planet is water? That's why we're mostly water. A 300-to-1 ratio, by the way. So I can remember back in the day when everybody was, what happens is this is like incremental. It's not like all the information was actually already available to you that you have access to through your own heart and soul. What it is you're supposed to know, when you're supposed to know it, because your state of awareness is so high because you're running a love vibration. How else are you going to be able to protect your children if you're not? That's common sense or logic. So now they're producing the video of Corey Goode, right? Now, I realize that some things that I see, I'm supposed to see in my visual screen, right? For reasons that I'm supposed to experience it at the time that I'm supposed to experience it. So I saw a picture of what's known as a scan. It's just a visual that had a list of names, had their ID tags, like dog tags, of several names, of which Wilcox and Corey Goode were two of them. And it had listed that they were sovereign, okay, and how much their worth was, okay, in numbers, electrons, if you will, right? So when I saw that, and that's called a biometric scan, that's binary. They're binary AI because they say they're sovereign. Look at all the money they got. Okay, so at the very least, that they're not a native spirit Indian, right? Not that that makes them a bad guy, but who are they, really? Where do they come from? Do they have a soul? What happened to them? What is their purpose and function of what they're doing? What are they using their energy for? So one of the giveaways is that they're using the same system in order to get a resolution, which I realized as a child that the entire system was set up on this planet, which essentially was an energy harvesting machines, okay, to drain the energy out of souls, Fall of the Spirit, see ya. Spiraled down into a Death Star. And so when I'm listening to Corey Goode, you know, you don't see a big smile on his face. He's happy and joyful, his core vibration. And sadly, and obviously that can be a result of an enormous amount of trauma his soul has experienced. Is he a child born in one of these Illuminati families or a predatory family where his mother and father were extremely mean to them? Just like the guy that lives in this house told me the other day, I hate my mother. And then he said, that's an understatement. I go, whoa, buddy, I love my mother and father. What'd they do to you? Right? And so, without getting into that whole subject, you realize what happens. You know, child abuse leads to adult self-abuse through drugs, alcohol, and abusive relationships. Those abusive relationships carry over into the abuse of children, the next generation, and on and on and on and on. So you know they don't have a future. Right? If you're not experiencing what love is in your mirror, how are you going to heal? One. And number two, you already know your mirror is not going to last very long before it goes dark. Now you can't see yourself in the mirror no more. A shadow being lurking in the shadow. And there's a lot of lurkers around here, particularly down the road. Used to be worse a couple of years ago. You could walk down there and you could feel how dark that energy was. Bad. I had a lot of people who used to come up to me and go, man, I'm getting my children out of here. The energy here is black. That means it's dense. Woo. Battery drainers. Then you get all the thought forms. Freddie must be around here. Remember Freddie? And so that's what they do, see. Fear is a lie. Love is the absence of fear. So that's what they do. Remember Hermann Goering said, hey, all you got to do is just scare the crap out of them. They'll get on their knees and they will obey. So that's why they use the authoritarian side of things with children right out of the womb, and particularly when you have parents that are abusing their children right out of the gate. And then they get into a more abusive situation by authority figures of telling them everywhere they go, you can't do this, you can do this, you can't do that. As if, man, I'm being ruled over by a master. Well, you know what a master drive is, right? In a computer. What a slave drive is in a computer with another drive. Right? So in other words, they obey the slave master, what was known as the slave driver. Remember? Yeah, they're slave drivers. Whipping the horses, whipping everything. Whipping everybody into shape. Get on your knees and obey. You remember, I told that one guy in that market, when they get on their knees and obey that penis, buddy. That's right. Get down on your knees and obey that penis. That's right. That's all your male dominant types. Obey, man. I'm the X side. Sign on the X. That's the other side. That's negative magnetic polarity. That's right. Negative magnetic polarity. Going in the other direction. Going in the other direction. Going in the other direction. So you know that when you're both as a single pole, you're choosing what to put in memory. And why is that? So that it has future value. Because you already realize you're on a battlefield. So otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't know what to get rid of and what to keep. Right? That means when programming methods don't work on a polarity integrator. Okay? They can't program a planet chip. Okay? A living spirit with an oversoul. No, they have no idea how much energy can be brought to bear. They don't want to know. But it's here. And it's just called a bigger furnace. A big furnace. You get enough atoms together with atom that are experiencing love vibration, you can quantify how much fire that is, how much light that is, how much heat that is, bringing the heat to bear. As the old saying goes, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. right? So you realize what's going down and why it's going down the way it's going down. You know what frying a network is? Even in this house, it's got a 5G Wi-Fi router. Goes, disconnects off and on, off and on, off and on, off and on all day long. Get it on my phone. Hey, disconnected. Hey, disconnected. Hey, disconnected. Hey, disconnected. Naturally, I'm not comfortable being in a house with a 5G router. Okay, because I'd rather be out in a tree somewhere in a redwood forest, 1,000 miles from nowhere, without any other antennas except for the trees and nature, right? The antenna of a ship. In other words, experiencing love everywhere you go. That means you're experiencing the law everywhere you go. Love is a law. That's the law of one. That's a monopole, right? That means your water worlds are in balance, and that's called the law of spheres. It's the law of one with center point of balance and a cross. That means you're in a state of eternal peace because you're in a state of eternal love, because you're doing no harm, which means you're doing no harm to yourself, because you love who you are, because you love the energy you are. That's your soul, that's your spirit. That's as simple as it gets. So you know when you're on a spiritual battlefield, just like one of these little comments I put in there, you're on a spiritual battlefield. It's not what you look like. What we're talking about here is the core vibration. What's the core vibration of the true identity of the being behind that mask? Right? So I remember an old saying, trust is expensive, trust no one. I knew that as a child. So this would be very similar to the Screaming Eagles that were night dropped, right? Behind enemy-held lines in Nazi-held France, right? When was that? June 6, 1944, Normandy, France. Yeah. So they got to set up communications. We're behind the enemy lines, right? Just scale it up a little bit, you know, in a galactic and a universe sense. And it's essentially the same thing, right? Just using different weapons, different ways to protect yourself. So you got to scale up the acceleration of technology, right? Take it way beyond Star Trek Next Generation, because you realize the acceleration of intelligence and creativity, how long that's been around in order to do what? Accelerate technology, artificial intelligence, the biotech, right? So you got to realize, as I did, that if you're not familiar with the territory of spiritual war and technology and all the rest of it, as I used to say, the deck was stacked against you. And that's why I mentioned it to a few folks in the spiritual community. This is not a beginner's course, okay, in spiritual warfare, okay, not by a long shot. I mean, when you came into this place, you had to know what you were doing. You had to be very aware of how spiritual wars are fought, particularly when you get into all the tech. Erasing memories, reprogramming, hacking, hackers, operating systems, servers. Just scale it up. Scale up a bigger tree trunk of communications. So I thought it was sort of funny because I paid quite a bit of attention to what's her name, Camelot, Kira Cassidy. I did a video on her once when I was in a gospel mission about a year and a half ago, I guess it was, about she interviewed an enormous amount of people, and I do thank her for all the information that she was able to provide from people that were coming out of all these different communities, right? Information. She's an informer. She's informing you what is happening with these people. The way I do this is I simplify it. Okay, you're energy, I'm energy. You're an antenna, I'm an antenna. I'm a receiver, you're a receiver. You're a transmitter, I'm a transmitter. Okay, transmit to me. Give me the flow. What is a communication? What you are aware of in energy will be the energy that you can use to communicate to me what it is you're aware of at the time that you're communicating to me. Now I'm aware of it. Okay, so what am I aware of? I'm aware of what you're aware of because you just communicated to me what you're aware of. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter that. Does it represent what love is? If it doesn't, then I know the information doesn't represent what love is. And I'm doing that since I was a little tyke. Because you represent the highest law. So I've represented the highest law since I was a little tyke till now. Because you know what the law is. right? So you know who the outlaws are. Now we get into in-laws and outlaws. What's the law? What's lawful? Word games, puzzle games. It's funny, isn't it? Actually, it's not funny because these are horrific and hideous crimes. Because I knew this when I was small. They play head games. The battlefield is the battle for your mind's energy, which is your soul energy, what it is you're aware of. And if you ever want to take a dive into what it means to be assimilated, if you don't know the difference between what that is, in this case an AI mirror, and what you are as a mirror, okay, then you're mimicking, you're the same as the AI mirror. It means you don't know the difference between what it is and what you are. And so AI is artificial intelligence, and that's called a psychopathway because that's the mental field. So what happened to your spirit? Then you have your emotions, powerful emotions. Remember, Data didn't have any emotions. So you know the energy's sort of flat. It's just called a talking head. I'm just giving you information, brother. That's it. I'm just an information provider, an information management system. No different than when you're on a screen. You're just getting information coming at you. That's all it is, data. Right? But a girl knows what it's like when a man hugs her and says, I love you, and she actually feels the higher vibration of that energy, that she feels warm, cuddled, nurtured, and loved. Because she will experience the energy translation, which is an energy communication. So a soul that is an energy communication, she is experiencing the vibrational energy of the core frequency vibration of the soul that is sharing that energy with her. She knows that she's feeling loved, the same way that a dog will wag its tail because that dog has an antenna that is experiencing the signal, the frequency and the vibration of your energy. So they respond, and you see the response, which is the impact. That means that they are receiving the signal. They received the signal, they translated it. Now you're experiencing the result of your energy, and they love your energy. That means you're an energy giver. That's the difference. Have a good night. I love you all.